Skylove here with Anzzia magazine. Today we are talking with Greg Windmiller. Greg comes to us from Rayford.
Yep.
Awesome, Greg. So how you doing today?
Pretty good. Can't complain. It's a beautiful day out.
And kind of beautiful day.
Kind of beautiful day.
Kind of beautiful day. So starting off, Greg, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Well, I'm actually a professional Canopy pilot and also a Canopy coach. I've been coaching for about 12 years now, professionally for about 9 years, but I retired from the Army last year, and this is my full-time job. And I just travel from drop zone to drop zone and spread the good word of safe Canopy flight and work with military contracts and teach people how to fly parachutes and not hurt themselves.
Awesome. So you're kind of the Canopy god.
No, far from that. Far from that.
So what was the moment that you decided, like, this is it? This is Canopy and skydiving is going to be my life. Was there a point that you can kind of set aside that you know that was the trigger?
I did. I took a friend for a tandem. I took a friend to go do a tandem, and they allowed me to jump with them. And they're like, here, just jump this rig. You're a military freefall guy, and you've got about however many jumps I had at that point. And they're like, here, you'll be okay, just jump this, but pull this and let go of it, and don't try to go up here to grab ripcord. And so my first jump, the tandem opened up. This is back when they didn't care who jumped with what. And the tandem opened up, and I watched them open, and the video guy was looking at me, waiting for me to pull, and I'm waiting for him to pull. And I'm like, yeah, give him a thumbs up. And he's like, and I'm like, and then I was like, oh yeah, he wants me to pull, and I'm going to pull when I'm reaching, like there's no ripcord there, and kind of panicked a little bit, and then, yeah. No prior instruction, no nothing, just here, jump this,
Here's
have a good time, yeah.
So that was the point that you decided that this was it.
I saved myself, I lived. I almost died, and then I lived, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, there might be something actually to this, but that was kind of stupid, let me learn more about it. And so I dedicated a lot of time to trying to find out the ins and outs of the parachutes. I jumped accuracy parachutes for a really long time. I tell people all the time, I had a lot of jumps under a very big parachute before I did my first small parachute.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So who did you train with?
I went to Fort Benning, Georgia for a stint to work at the Ranger Camp as a LRS instructor, a long-range surveillance instructor, basically teaching people to do what I did.
Right.
And then while I was there was a parachute team there called the Silver Wings. Shout out, boys. And then they're based out of Atlanta.
Yeah,
and
that's my boys right there, yeah.
So I was actually on that team while I was an instructor at the at the Ranger Camp. And then my last year, I left the Ranger Camp to work there full time on the parachute team.
Right.
I was there for about a month, and the commanding general who led us left, and the guy who took over hated us, and so he shut the team down. And so I didn't have a place to go, and so I actually went up to Atlanta. Lived up in Atlanta for pretty close to a year, worked at a civilian drop zone and messed around at Flight Concepts, playing with parachutes and whatnot while I was waiting to come to the Golden Knights.
I see. So you have all kinds of records and medals, just a plethora. So tell us about them. Tell us about your records.
What is a plethora, Hefe?
Plethora.
What is a plethora, Hefe?
Lots and lots.
I don't know, I didn't start canopy piloting or swooping until I had about 8,000 jumps. My first cross-brace canopy jump was about 8,000 jumps, and I was like, oh, I could really get to like this. Because I was actually scared of parachutes themselves. I didn't really like being under canopy. I had an incident under canopy where I got to a canopy collision when I had 35 jumps. Canopy's just terrified, and so I would want to hurry up and open up and get down as fast as possible so I wouldn't have to be under canopy. I started my competition career actually doing four-way. I did a four-way in the Carolina Skydiving League right here in Rayford, North Carolina. Started it. Tony Thacker actually used to run the skydiving school and the Skycat. But anyway, and then I got into doing crew and then also accuracy. When I came to the Golden Knights, I went straight to the competition team. I went straight to the Star Accuracy team, and about 6 months later, I was the team leader for the Star Accuracy team until they did away with the team. And then I moved over to the tandem team, and then in about 2007, the end of 2007, myself and Chris Moore actually started the Canopy piloting team. I was going to local competitions and doing it on my own, and the team sergeant major at the time was like, why don't you do it for us? And I'm like, well, we don't have the right equipment. And he's like, what do you need? And I told him what we need. He's like, okay. And then a couple months later, they went out and bought the equipment. Nice. And me and Chris, because we were so far behind the power curve with everybody else, Chris had about 8,000 or 9,000 jumps. We had about the same amount of jumps. And because we were so far behind the power curve just starting out, we're like, ugh. We dedicated like a month and a half, went to Paris, Valley, California. He was like, hey, I'm going to be here for like 3 weeks. I'm like, hey, you want some free jumps? He's like, yeah. I was like, hey, we'll give you some free jumps if you coach us. And he worked with us. Dwayne Hall out of Paris Valley actually worked with us a little bit. So Dwayne and Nick were one of our first coaches. Hired Jay Miletsky to come out and coach us for a little while. We dedicated 12 to 15 jumps a day, 6 days a week for about a month straight.
Oh, wow.
And then that's all we did. We just swooped and swooped and swooped.
Very
and then our first year was 2008. And then from there it just kind of took off. Chris was older in his military career than I was, and that was his last year on the team.
Okay.
So I was on the team by myself for quite a long time, actually.
So what was your first record? What was the first record that you set?
We hired Jay Miletsky to come out to Yuma, Arizona to coach us. And he came out there and he sat down in typical Jay fashion and said, all right, what is your goals? What do you want to do in skydiving? And he went around the room because there was like me and Chris and there's a couple other people doing like smaller, less small candy piloting stuff. They were jumping like 150s and 170s and transitioning from the big accuracy rigs to those. And he went around the room and everybody's like, I want to live and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I looked him square in the eye and he was like, I want to beat your world records. Because at that time he had held every single world record. He was at that time I think he was a 5-time or 6-time world champion. And I said, I want to beat all your records. That year, at the end of that year, went to South Africa for the World Championships, qualified for the U.S. team at the U.S. Nationals, went to South Africa, and I broke his speed record my first year swooping.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did he feel about that?
He was happy.
Well, yeah.
And, the biggest lie in skydiving, especially individual sports, is like, hey, have a good jump. I want you to do well. I just don't want you to do as well as me. But you always want to do better than your fellow competitors.
Yeah.
But yeah, we always had that friendly bond and everything. And he walked up to me, and because obviously on the podium, I actually took 3rd in the world. And so my first year swooping, I took 3rd in the world. And of course, Jay was first, so it didn't burn as much.
Right.
And then on the podium, he was like, "Hey, congratulations, blah blah blah." I told him I owe it, all of it to him, and a couple other of my coaches like Nick and Dwayne and stuff, and Isaiah McCoffey. Isaiah McCoffey was actually my first Canopy coach. He used to be from the team Fast Tracks, one of the best Canopy pilots that nobody's ever heard of nowadays, because he just packed it up and went to work with the family business up in Connecticut. But I've had a lot of Canopy coaches working with me. But anyway, yeah, the funny thing is that record, Jay actually beat it back the following year, and then I think it was the next World Meet I took it back again. And so after that I set 3 more, but yeah.
3 more speed records.
3 more speed records.
Which of those made you the fastest man under Canopy?
The first one was, I beat his record. The second one was done in South Africa at a small drop zone in South Africa, in Johannesburg, outside Johannesburg, in Carltonville, and that was 2.093 seconds. So that was the fastest one. And that was actually in 2009, and it didn't get broken until last year.
Wow. So who broke your record? I was like, you gotta know the name.
It was either Tommy Delaback, who is always fast under Canopy, or Pablo Hernandez. I'm not exactly sure which one, because it kind of like gets, it gets not really tossed back and forth. It's like there's people that have actually broken it, and the records weren't ratified because they found out something like, okay, that wasn't exactly, everything wasn't legal.
Right.
So they're pretty stringent and strict when it comes to records.
As they should be.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite medal and your favorite record? Like the one that you're the most proud of?
I think my favorite medal, my favorite record is my second one, the 2.093, the one that stood for so long. And then my favorite medal was actually, I think, my first World Meet.
Very cool. Where you placed?
3rd in the world.
3rd in the world at your very first World Meet. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, pretty happy about that.
That's pretty awesome. So tell me about your most proud moment as an athlete.
I think my first Dubai Cup, the first international Dubai Cup that they had, I was actually in Iraq. I was trying to finagle away because I was heading to Iraq in January and I was going to come back in like May or June. And then I was trying to finagle a way to go to Dubai and compete on my way to Iraq, actually to deploy. I didn't get to compete in that one even though I qualified for it. So the next one I got to go to, it was the top 4 competitors make up the U.S. team. Even though the U.S. team has 8 competitors, the top 4 are actually the U.S. team that represents the U.S. So you're actually allowed for an overall country medal. And so myself, Ian Bobo, Nick Batch, and Kevin Love actually, I think that was a team. So I took first place in distance out of 104 competitors, and then we took first place overall country. So that was probably my most proud moment
Exactly.
to make, because that was the first time it was eligible or actually talked about having like overall country,
Right.
and to make the U.S. overall, that's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So tell us about your training on being the fastest man under Canopy. I know people are all, googly-eyed about that. That's pretty awesome.
What do you mean by training?
And you obviously trained really hard for that to
I did.
get
Yeah.
just a hair over 2 seconds to set the Guinness Book of World Records for that.
I did. I dedicated a lot of time because the thought process and theory and having a lot of jumps with the accuracy parachutes and understanding pressurization and wings and airfoil design, I saw a flaw. I saw a flaw in the system and the way that everybody was trying to do the same thing. And whenever everybody's trying to do the same thing and there's a different way you can do it that possibly had an advantage, obviously you're going to jump on it. And so I actually used a different technique to do the same thing. And I would approach the gates at a different angle. I'd approach the gates. I'd start my turn at a different time. I just used a totally different technique than everybody else. And the funny part of it was super effective. And the funny part, it took like about 3 years for people to start catching on, and then people start going, hey, wait a minute, I think there's something to this. And all of a sudden, then people start doing it, and I'm like, oh, no more advantage. I really gotta start pushing now. So
Right.
I pushed harder and harder, and obviously there's injuries that entailed and stuff like that. But I was pretty happy about kind of taking a groundbreaking thought process or theory to the technique and modifying it to make it work.
Right.
And so a lot more people now are pretty much doing that.
Right. Very cool. So, obviously, this sport is very goal-oriented, and you have to maintain those goals and keep working towards them. What do you have set for yourself?
Oh, that's a big question. There's actually 2 big meets coming up. The World Games in Poland. Mm-hmm. They changed the rules on us. We qualified because we didn't get to actually finish the entire last World meet. We were using a qualifier thing that's kind of being scaled. It's being watered down. So basically it's some medals winners from this meet, some medal winners from the last meet, and some people that actually didn't even compete at this last World meet are actually qualified to go to the World Games because of because we didn't get to finish one, so they're doing a different selection process. So the World Games is like a really big, huge event. It's like 36 competitors, best 36 competitors in the world, and it's on an international stage, and it's in front of millions of people, which is an amazing thing. But then they changed the rules, and now there's some different events in there that I haven't really trained for or practiced for, and some are like freestyle. I'm not a big freestyle guy. Number one, in the Army, if we get our rigs wet, we can't jump again.
Right.
And so in freestyle, getting your rigs wet is actually part of the game. So
Right.
It's not like if I get my rig wet, people in the Army are like, why? What happened? What did you do wrong?
Right.
And plus also the getting the equipment wet is not really a safety thing for the Army. That's not really acceptable. So
Yeah.
I never really trained freestyle because we weren't allowed. Our job was to compete in international competition. The events were speed days and accuracy, and that was it. There was no other events. You
Right.
couldn't even practice other events because it wasn't part of the job. So
Right.
anyway, they changed the rules. Now there's gonna be some freestyle in there, so I'll just kind of go out there and wing it a little bit and see what goes on. The last time I did that, I think, was actually at a Dubai Cup where they threw freestyle and they're like, hey, it's optional. You don't have to do it. And then Dubai actually hired people like Jeffro Provenzano or Andy Fair, like the big name freestyle guys, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, freestyle is not part of the competition. We're like, what? And so I had to go out and do freestyle. I think I took 11th out of like 80 or 90 competitors.
Nice. For not having trained it?
Well, I didn't do any complicated maneuvers. I just kept it simple and just, hey, let me drag and carve a little bit. But so it looks as though I'm going to start practicing some freestyle now. Prepare to get wet.
Awesome. So Worlds is one of your goals.
World Games coming up,
Yeah.
which is unlike everything else because it's every 4 years.
Right.
And then the World Meet's going to be coming up pretty soon. We got a competition in Dubai. Next year we got one in Poland. So, and then we got U.S. Nationals actually here at Rayford in September.
Yes.
So looking forward to that.
Very
Go
cool.
home
Yeah.
turf.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to covering that as well. So let's see. What are you most hungry for in your career now? Like, where's your hunger lie?
Teaching.
Yeah.
Educating, watching people be safe. I started a series of videos not too long ago called the Safety Series, and I've got quite a few of them. I'm just waiting to release them, and I had an agreement with a certain magazine to video release them during that thing right there, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and release them on my website. But just teaching, that's all I really love anymore. You know, I love traveling, I love teaching, I love working with different people.
That's what keeps you in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's keeping on, spreading the word.
Yep.
Very cool. So tell me how people can get a hold of you. Tell me, you know, what you can do for them, how they can get a hold of you if they wanted to talk to you about coaching or life.
Well, obviously with everything else, everybody has a Facebook page. My website is superiorflightsolutions.com. I love it. But anyway, you can contact me via superiorflightsolutions.com or Greg at superiorflightsolutions.com. But I also have, like, 90% of my work or my business, usually through surveying stuff, is through Facebook.
Very cool. So get you through Facebook.
Yeah, reach me through Facebook.
Fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close up here? Anything you'd like to talk about or add?
No, just the key thing in skydiving, like everybody says it all the time, it's kind of like a little catchphrase or whatever, but honestly it's true. Like, find out what scares you the most, find out what concerns you the most about it, embrace it, train it, figure out how to master it, and then you eventually your fear will become your passion, and then after that it's a whole new world. Yeah, I'm surrounded by great people. I work with great people, and my sponsors just flood me with love, and so I can't say enough about my sponsors.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, we very much thank you for the interview today and taking your time. And again, you can reach Greg at superiorflightsolutions.com and on Facebook at Superior Flight Solutions.
But seriously, like I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a bad Canopy course. There's Alter Ego Project, Flight One. There's so many different companies out there that actually do what I do. And just do yourself a favor. It doesn't matter where you're at. Find a course and get in it.
Take your time and learn it right.
Do it right.
Do it right. Absolutely. Well, signing off, Stephanie Skylove here with Anzzia Magazine and Greg Windmiller. See you next time, kids.